beats me, head down to him. He's then I admit that he's a great fighter if he beats me, and I'll retire, man. If he beats me, I'll retire.
2, 3 years ago, I said I believe Deontay is the only one that could beat Usyk, and it's because he's lean, he's agile, he's hostile, he's violent, and he was blessed with a right hand that if he hit anybody with, they going to sleep.
Sausage, ugly little man, rabbit. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. It's like a little of an earring in.
Hey, my friend, you stop?
What's going on, people? Back again for another one. It's been a little while. Thank you for everyone who's been blowing up the Three Defense League video. I've had very, very positive feedback from it. So thank you to everyone who has commented on that video and everyone who has subscribed from that video. And thank you to the people who are trolling, because there's no way that you could be trying to defend Fury on that video and talk about he won the Usyk fight. I just don't believe it. But thank you for the trolling anyway. Today we're talking about heavyweights exposed and the Saudi saviors. Let's get to today's video. So as you see from the thumbnail, we've got quite an array of heavyweights who have been exposed through Saudi's involvement in boxing. Now, with the money that's involved now, with the Saudis being involved in Turkey al Sheikh, you have no reason and you have no way to lie your way out of fighting top contenders. And that's why we're seeing people finally lose. There was so much made of when AJ lost to Ruiz, when AJ lost to Usyk. The reason it happens is because people are going to lose if you fight your top contenders. Yes, Ruiz was a bit of a blip in the system, but he was still a good contender at the time. And Usyk is obviously a generational great. But at the time, how can he lose someone that's coming up and he should just steamroll him and blah, 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 blah. Look now. This is going to happen when the best fight the best. I wouldn't say you're just exposed because you lost, but these people that I've put in the thumbnail and these people that I'm going to be talking about, they are exposed because of the lies they've told to avoid the big fights or to pretend that they're the best without needing to fight other fighters. So first off, we're not going to spend long on this, but we go into Tyson Fury. Now, we've already spoken a long time about this, but if we took at the timeline of why I call Fury a fraud, on the biggest scale. Now, in terms of in the ring, he's a great fighter. I don't call him like elite, all-time great, like some people say. He's elite for this generation now because there's only 3 elites, and I say it's Usyk, Fury, and AJ. And then possibly you can start to have Parker and the bar, like your top 5, I'll call them elite. But for this generation. But in terms of generationally elite, Fury's not elite. He moves very well for someone his size. He's fast for someone his size, but he's not extremely fast for a heavyweight. Someone who's fast for a heavyweight is Usyk. You know, that's an extreme, like, generational speed and generational footwork and generational movement. So that's what I call an elite heavyweight generationally. But we have a timeline of it. We have Fury back in, I believe it was 2021, when the Undisputed Fight should have been made with AJ going online and saying Daniel Kinahan has thank you to him for making this fight, and me and AJ, yeah, it's going to happen. And then, what, 2 weeks later, he gets called off because of a court case going through that Wilder needed his rematch. It was a contractual rematch. Don't forget these things, by the way, people. Fury doesn't like rematches. A contractual rematch that Fury tried to get out of. Never forget that. Other times where Fury has then called out AJ online or called out Usyk online and then delayed the fight for 2 years, but claiming it to be Usyk's fault. Now, there'll be people in the comments still saying, well, Usyk pulled out that time, or AJ did this, when, you know, Fury's giving ridiculous deadlines and foolishness. Let's be real. Who's the common denominator in all these situations? Tyson Fury. AJ has had no problem making fights with anyone and fighting his mandatories. Usyk has had no problem with making fights and fighting his mandatories. Let's be real, people. Let's actually have some sense. Like, I get that you might be a fan of the person, but have some sense of it. There's one common denominator that has always been an issue and tried to pretend like it's always the other person's side. That's Tyson Fury. He got exposed by Usyk. Now, I wouldn't say it's because he lost. Like I said, that's not a bad thing. He's lost to a generational great. Usyk's an amazing fighter. But you can't talk down your opponent in this way, calling him a middleweight, calling him a gap-tooth rabbit, calling him a foreigner and no one cares about this stuff. Like, you talk about your opponent with that much disrespect, you better win that fight. But you know, you talk about that much disrespect, and then he beats you, you have to hold that L. There's no way he could beat me. If he beats me, I'm not any good, am I? You know, where you can hold a press conference by yourself just to talk yourself up and still get beat by that guy. Anyway, we're not going to get too far into that. But Tyson Fury has been exposed, and not necessarily, like I said, not for losing, but as nowhere near as great as people proclaim, as the Fury Defense League proclaims. Fury has been avoiding fighting elite level fighters for a very long time. In terms of the past few opponents that he's had, who can you name that's elite? You could say Dylan White, but he was past his best because he's been knocked out multiple times by the same shot. And cool, but we can still include that. Not elite, but okay, higher level, top 10. And who else you going to say? Deontay Wilder? Yes, let's go on to the next heavyweight that's exposed. Deontay, first time he steps up to elite level competition, he loses. And not in a close fashion, not in any kind of interesting fashion, but in pretty sad fashion. Parker dominates him every single round apart from possibly one. I gave Wilder no rounds in that fight. And in the Zhang fight, he looked like a shell of himself. Now, a lot of people told AJ to retire after losing to Usyk. Even after losing to Ruiz, can you believe it? Told AJ to retire. And when he came back and fought Ruiz, they were still like, oh, he's gun shy, he's this, he's that. Bear in mind, he's still throwing punches and he's still landing loads of punches. What you saying about Wilder? He hasn't had anywhere near the same type of backlash or feedback. Now, in terms of before he fought Fury, the top 10, 5 opponent, whatever you can call it, we have Luis Ortiz, we have Bermain Stavern won because he was a champion, that's how he won the belt. And that was a tough fight for him. And I give him kind of props for that one, even though Bermain Stavern was not a very good fighter. Well, not very good, that's actually bad to say, but he wasn't an elite level fighter. He didn't go further than that level. Then we have Luis Ortiz. Everyone claims him to be the boogeyman. I never believed it, the same way that everyone claimed Hrgovic to be the boogeyman. So, you know, you beat Luis Ortiz, who has no elite wins on his record, so then you beat another so-called boogeyman. It doesn't add up. And then we have the Fury fights. And yes, it's back and forth, and he knocks down Fury and fought 4 times over the fights, and the first one's a draw, and it's a back and forth thrilling contest, but they're both talking it up bigger than it actually is. They tried to make it seem like we're the number 1 and 2 and everyone else is rubbish. But now we see they fight other people who are considered a high level, top 5, elite, and they're losing. For me, it cancels out both of their elite level wins. Yes, you can still say it's a good win on their CV, but we're not going to put them elite level. No. Now, with the Wilder, how Wilder's looked recently, we can kind of say, okay, yeah, Fury's had something to do with that. Fair enough. But, you know, we've got to also take into account what he did before Fury, who he was fighting for before Fury and who he fought after Fury. And in terms of the level before Fury was way lower than the level he's fighting now. So we can also attribute part of those losses to Fury, the damage taken, and also the fact that he wasn't fighting elite level competition. I'm not having the fact that you're going to say, oh, Tyson Fury did that to him and that's it. No, it was part of both. Wilder, Fury, exposed. Next one we go on to, this is a weird one, but it's got a link to Deontay Wilder. Malik Scott. Come on down. Malik Scott is a terrible trainer. I said it. I've seen so many interviews dancing around the subject and dancing around it. And I won't say for every level, but in terms of high level heavyweight boxing, he's not a good trainer. Like, and I can say that, and you can say, you know, how can you say that? Well, you haven't done it. Listen, I said Zhang would win a long time ago, but what secured it for me was seeing Deontay Wilder training for this fight and doing the head spinneroonie move. I thought it was a little bit of fun in the gym the first time I saw it. Then when I saw him do it on the open workout, and knowing Deontay Wilder's mindset, like he doesn't really have a lot of accountability. That's another video for another time, but he doesn't have a lot of accountability. So I know he's not like, oh yeah, it's a little joke around, but you know, I do this. No, he's not drilling the correct things in camp. He let Mark Breland go under dubious circumstances to bring in Malik Scott, someone that he knocked out with a phantom punch. And he seems to have undone all of the work that Mark Breland has done before. Now, I said, like, I still feel like Deontay was a bit of a, not necessarily a fraud, but he's been exposed there and he didn't fight top level competition. But he could still box a little bit. Not very well, but he knew how to set up his right hand. His footwork was far better under Breland than it was under Malik Scott. He's gone so far backwards, and you can't put that down to age. You just can't. You can't say, oh, he's just aged himself out. That's down to Malik Scott. He has drilled incorrect things into his body. He hasn't worked with the fighter that's in front of him, or he's undone a lot of Martin Breeder's work and gone, no, you're going to box on the back foot, you're going to have that lead hand posted out, and then you're going to set up the right hand. That's not how Wilder fights. That's not how he was getting those knockouts. You don't tell me about the knockout with Robert Helenius, because you watch that again and you'll be questioning whether that was actually a real knockout. Malik Scott has been exposed as a bad trainer in the heavyweight division. He wasn't a very good fighter, and he's not a very good trainer. Sounds harsh, but it's true. And if you watch that Zhang Wilder fight, just watch the replays, even the highlights on YouTube, you'll see Malik Scott celebrating with Zhang before Wilder has even knows what's going on. The fight gets called off. Malik Scott jumps in the ring, doesn't go to Wilder. He might have said something to him a little bit, but goes straight to Zhang's corner and holding up and hugging up Zhang. It's a very, very strange thing. Next up, Filip Hrgovic. I've been saying this for the longest bleeding time. I don't rate Filip Hrgovic. And I didn't really know, I do know why, because I haven't seen anything. Now, all people who are in boxing, this is why I will say to you, if you're not someone who's been boxing all your life, but you are a fan of boxing, you like boxing, don't let people talk you down. People who were in the know in boxing, they told me a lot of nonsense, but they told me Filip Hrgovic is, he's this and he's that, and he's a boogeyman, he's undervoid, and like, yeah, trust me, this is the next guy. And every time I saw him perform, I was like, yeah, I don't see it. I see he looks dead. Like, he looks rubbish, like, be honest. And then he's fighting low-level competition. He fought Dempsey McKean, which is not low-level, but it's lower than the level that they're talking him up at. And he struggled. Then he's rabbit punching him on the back of the head, which he continuously does. And then he fights Nick Demora. I'm going to try and get it right. Demori. Who cares? He fights someone, Mark Demori, whatever. It was a nonsense fight. It was like a white-collar level fighter versus a professional level athlete who's been fighting all their life. It was absolutely ridiculous. And even then, he didn't look good in that fight. Demora or whatever. I know you're going to say, well, he's at least a boxer. I don't consider him a professional level boxer. I'm sorry. And it should have been lighter work than it was. And even though it was light work, it still looked labored. It still looked terrible. It looked like still punching into the back of the head. I don't even bring up the Zhang fight. Never rated him. Never, ever did. And thankfully, because of Uncle Turki Al Sheikh, Daniel Dubois has been the person to expose him and show that he's not on this high level that everyone has him. Now, yes, he was pinging Dubois with some brilliant right hands in the first round. I was like, oh, this could be over quick. But it shows me that Dubois either has an absolute granite chin, possibly, that is quite possible, or Hrgovic's power isn't really all that, which is kind of more likely to be, because again, the knockouts that he's had, a lot of back of the head shots, the straight right hand hasn't been laying anyone out, and Dubois was catching them flush and walking forward. Cuts to the eyes, yes, that was the cause of the stoppage, and yeah, there were a lot of headbutts in there, so fair enough, but it looked like he was not fit. It got to, the fourth round, and I noticed he looked exhausted, unconditioned. Now, this is one thing I want to say as well, this goes back to like the Fury stuff as well. People go, Fury didn't train well for the Ngannou fight, or maybe Hrgovic didn't train well. That is part of it. That's part of what makes you a fraud. You can't call yourself an elite level boxer if you're telling me, oh, they didn't train properly for that fight, and that's why they look like they might have lost it or whatever. Or that's why they lost the fight. That's why Hrgovic lost, because he didn't train properly. No. If you didn't lose, if you didn't win, because you didn't train properly, you lost. That's part of it. That's part of what doesn't make you elite, and it exposes you. It's not just what you do on the night. It's what you do in your training camp. Stop making those excuses, please. I don't want to hear that anymore. No more. Anyway, my nose is getting blocked. But that is just a little talk on the heavyweights exposed. What do you think, people? What do you think about this exposed thing? Are you happy about it? Are you happy that we're finally getting the fights we need to have? And it doesn't matter. You can't avoid it. You can't lie about it. You can't say you're the best and you don't need to fight anyone else and you're better than the rest. Let me know in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe. Who else will be exposed in the future? Peace.